well, I was the C camera operator, so I wasn't there every day. I was there on all the days that we did big dance numbers, and which was a good majority of the movie. And then I did camera for the last week. So A camera was our steady cam, Mark Schmidt, and he was probably the most choreographed because he was with the steady cam. And then Peter was on B camera, which was on a crane a lot of times. And we kind of did it all together, which was odd because you had to avoid Mark, who was like right on the principles all the time, fairly close. And then for the C camera, which I love doing, I was kind of a lot of times left to my own devices to go out and get, sneak in where I can and get shots of the dancers and sort of add to the more choreographed shots, which I loved because, I don't know, I like doing that. It's you can get in close and, be sneaky. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but it was like Aeroflex, when it was filmed, Panavision was kind of the king. And then when digital took over, which kind of flipped it was longer than a year, but it all kind of flipped quickly in 1 year. And then the Alexa was the camera of choice. I mean, like 90% of stuff was on the Alexa. But yeah, this was the Panavision, it was great. It was nice to hand hold. I didn't do a lot of hand holding, but we did some, and it was a very comfortable camera to hand hold. And it wasn't real heavy. So I really liked that aspect of it. Alice, I'm sure we'll talk more about, the color renditions and stuff with that camera. I'm not sure why they chose to go that way, but I'm glad they did. I had not worked with John, but I had worked with Alice on a small movie in Atlanta. And I really enjoyed working with her. She was very pleasant. She's not a micromanager, she's very confident. So it was really nice working with her. And then when she called me and said, "Oh, I'm doing In the Heights," I was like, "What?" Because I'm a huge fan of Broadway. And Lynn's, big fan of Lynn. So I was very excited to work on it. And it was everything I thought it would be. It was because the dancers were amazing. So it was very exciting to shoot, because when you're shooting like videos and stuff, it's fun and there's a lot of energy. And there's energy when you're doing fight scenes, and there's energy when you're doing like car stuff, and stunts, but it's all for little short pops. It was just like, oh my God, this just goes on forever. It's awesome. I can remember getting off of the camera and just going, bah! I was so excited. And the dancers were the same. The minute they'd finish a big dance and song number, they sometimes would just like start clapping, and just, it was hard to bring that energy back down, which was really cool. And to me, it helped with the photography, because you just really want to get in there and get nice shots. So, it was fun. And John is so pleasant to work with. He really knows what he wants, which, for a director, that's what crew looks for, is it somebody that knows exactly what they want, and depends on the crew to help get them there. But, they know how to, steer the ship. And he's very much like that. So I really enjoyed working with John. And he's got such a pleasant personality too. It's like anybody can go up and, talk to him about something. He's very inclusive, as is Alice. Very inclusive, both of them. And they knew each other from college. because I didn't know. I was like, I asked Alice, like, how do you seem like you know John? How do you know John? And she said she went to school with him. So they had worked together many times. Is to know which way to, make you understand where they want to go and kind of what they want to see, and then let you do your thing, as opposed to standing over top of you and, because that gets very difficult. But, it's, and just the fact that their personalities, neither one of them ever seemed insecure or unsure, and so when people are like that, it's like you have more confidence in following their leads. No, this was my first musical. It's not, I feel so lucky that I got a chance to do a musical, because there's not that many musicals done. Back when I was a kid, one of the things that really interested me or attracted me to filmmaking was movies like Oliver. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, there were a lot of musicals. Jesus Christ Superstar, because I grew up in Florida, so I knew nothing of Broadway. But I grew up loving those movies, and then old Barbra Streisand movies, So I really got into that, and part of it, part of what drove my desire was, especially like with Oliver, was like the production design of, a time that was 200 years ago. And it was just so cool to me. So when I graduated college, I was like, I'm moving to England because I want to see where Oliver was shot. Not even understanding that, those sets don't live forever. So that was a bit of a bummer. But so I was, to be involved in a musical was very exciting, And there's another one now, but there's West Side Story coming out, which was shooting at the same time we were. But other than that, it's like, and Wicked will be coming out. So, they don't make them very often. They're expensive and big to make. So I feel very, very lucky. No, I think to me, it was easier because I knew the music, because I listened to the music over and over. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't enjoy that and didn't know the music, then it probably would have been, I think you probably wouldn't have gelled as well, because sometimes as an operator, even when it's just a dialogue, one of the harder things to do is if you're having to like go from one person speaking to the other, and it's like we don't memorize the scripts. We get the script. We've read the script generally, but we only know the sides like from that morning, and so there's a timing, that you have to get down, and sometimes you just can't get the timing down. It's like you're just not gelling with the way the actors are doing it, and that's very difficult. And the same thing can happen with music if you're not kind of like into the music, or if it's just not something you're familiar with, just like feeling when to whip pan over to somebody else, because that their bit in the song is coming up, or just like when to take off from one shot to another. It's a feel, especially with operating. It's like you're dancing along with the dancers, which, and it's funny. That's why I like a lot of operators just use a monitor. Younger operators that have grown up with monitors more than I have. I like having my eye to the eyepiece because I kind of hug the camera and I feel more organic with it. And to me, that was helpful in the dance scenes, especially because I kind of just like, I don't know, dissolve into the camera and feel like I'm dancing with them. because I can't dance. So, so it was my opportunity to really be a part of them, and I think that, I don't know, I think you just have to have an aptitude you have to be moved by music. And I suppose if somebody's a good dancer, like, I don't know if Mark's a good dancer as far as a Steadicam guy, but he certainly moved well with them. So I saw that a lot in his work. Yeah, that was fantastic. And I have to say, I've lived in East Harlem for 20 years, which is not Washington Heights, but it's still part of the barrio. And that movie really, it totally got Washington Heights. It got that feeling so well, which it was also really nice, because having lived there for 20 years, now when I watch the movie, it's like, I lived in this neighborhood, this is exactly how people were, they set out on their stoops, and it's really talkative and loud, there's always music and salsa music. And there have been times in my apartment where I have a garden across the street from me where these guys hang out, and sometimes you'll just hear the salsa music get turned up way loud, and you'll look out and they're out there dancing with women that have come by. John totally got the feel of that neighborhood. So it's kind of like a little historical piece to me. I can look back and go, yep, that's what that was like back then. It's a beautiful area, and it's different than Lower Manhattan. I mean, it has a different feel. East Harlem's got the same feel, but the sun doesn't. I mean, when the sun sets, like that shot that Mark Russell and I got of the sunset, and it's, gosh, what's the song? When the Sun Goes Down. That gets visually married to the building face coming down, and they dance on the building. That whole area, which was an area that I didn't really go to that often because I didn't live there, and a lot of people don't go up to Washington Heights unless they have a reason. But now I try and walk up there all the time, because I never realized that the sunsets were so beautiful on that section of town. So to me now, it's a place to send people, and it's a place to go and hang out. But yeah, all the bodegas. I mean, God, my neighborhood, it used to be nothing but bodegas, and you get your little 50-cent cup of coffee with 22 sugars and a little coffee and cream. I had to get used to that. But yeah, they totally, that's probably a part of New York, like the movie suggests, that eventually will go away. It'll eventually be lost. And so I'm so glad that there's a little time capsule of it. The streets in places like that are allowed, guys on motorcycles, and everybody was great. I mean, everybody behaved themselves that I saw, and were really excited to have him there. Sometimes when you're making a movie in an area, people can get pretty tired of you, which I don't blame them. And sometimes they can make life a little difficult with noise and stuff. But yeah, we didn't get any of that. It was pretty nice. When we did the whole building movement, so that was pretty interesting, because that was major. And I just love set design, so I really love interesting sets. But yeah, I mean, the generally the dancers, there wasn't as much crowded dancing when you were in the studio. So, that was, the energy definitely wasn't nearly as much. Yeah, we shot that for several days. We had the camera on a crane, a 3-axis head, and they would turn along with the wall. I was on a dolly. God, I don't know how much track we had down, like 60 feet of track or something along the side of it. And so when they come running up, we actually tracked with them the length of the building, which, my dolly grip was Sally Foster, and she had to haul ass there for a while and then stop on a dime, and it was pretty exciting. She did a great job too, so much so that a bunch of the producers and stuff were in Video Village behind us and all started clapping, which I think she enjoyed. But yeah, it was a lot of trying to, meet each other at the same point and get the same speed going. And yeah, so definitely takes a few times, to have to run along something like that. And I mean, because there are windows, and I mean, although, it's all fake, but, if they took the wrong step, they could have definitely taken a tumble. So I would have been a little nervous doing it myself, but they were great. And they did really well. I mean, I asked Corey afterwards, I was like, wow, you're a really good dancer. And he said, oh my God, I'm glad you think so, because this is all new to me. And he said, I was scared to death. And I was like, well, you got me fooled, because I thought you looked great. So the most we ever had was 3. The Steadicam, and Mark was on the Steadicam pretty much all the time. We had one where we had the fire hydrants going off, and I remember getting back to the truck and Mark was just whipped. I was like, well, why are you so much more tired today? Because, it was hot. I mean, it was really hot when we were shooting, except when we did the pool scene where it was cold and overcast, sadly. But Mark said, we had a rain diffuser on the camera, and so I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they rotate. It's a mirror or a glass, and it rotates really, 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 really fast. And so you can feel it on your camera, but we're on heads. He is on, Steadicam where he's moving the arm. And so this was creating a force that he was having to fight with his arm to keep it level, to keep it straight. And I thought, wow, man, that was like 12 hours of doing that. So he was pretty beat, but yeah, it held a couple of problems. Shooting the pool, that was fun. Big, we had an underwater camera. We did have an extra camera that day that was just for the underwater stuff, which they didn't do too much of. And then we had a crane, so we could get out over the pool and on top of the pool. And then Mark got in the pool, I got in the pool to get some shots from more the middle. But no, it was usually just, for those days, it was 3 cameras. And then the subway song, the Abuela's song, which I thought was gorgeous. Oh my God, that's probably my favorite piece. And I wasn't there for that. It was just 2 cameras. And I think a lot of times it was just Mark, because it was in the subway and it was in a closed off portion of the subway. So I don't think they could have too many people down there. And so they basically did that for the most part, I think, with one camera. It was like probably my favorite bit. John showed that one of the days of the last week of shooting, and John, at lunch came in and put it on his computer and showed the edited piece, and yeah, a lot of people were crying. It was pretty cool. That was probably the best part of that movie. It was very, it just got very tight knit. There was just so much good energy about it, and the stars were just fantastic people. They were all just really sweet, and Lynn was a great guy, and so it was just a real team. And it was sad to see it end. I was very bummed when it was over. I was like, I wish a movie like this could go on and on and on. Well, the first couple of times that you watch a movie, or at least that I do, it's, sometimes that's all I'm thinking about is, I remember that, or, I should have done this. But then I could just watch the movie and enjoy it. I was able to go to the premiere. Unfortunately, it was still during, big COVID time. So the dancers were in one theater, and then the crew and stuff were in another theater, just because of the numbers. They didn't want to crowd people. And I thought, man, I want to be in there with the dancers, because I know they're going ape shit, So, but we still were. It's like a really great move or something, and everybody would be, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty fun to pick out what you've done and stuff. But then hopefully the movie just becomes its own thing, which, it has. It's like one of the only movies that I've worked on that I've gone to it. I think I saw it in the theater 3 times. And then friends of mine hadn't seen it and they wanted to see it. So we went and saw it, and, that's fun to go with other people. And all the feedback has been fantastic. Even people who weren't into musicals. No, I went to University of South Florida. Back when college wasn't quite as important in the film world, it was really just break in and learn on the job. And I did consider going to AFI at one point, but I thought, I work in the industry, so it's kind of strange to go back now. At times I wish I had, because the culture has changed. It's like you really do meet a lot of the people that you're going to work with for years at college, Well, back, I don't know, in the mid 80s, I got out of college and I went to England hoping to get a job at, on a movie at Pinewood, not even understanding when they wrote me. I wrote asking if there was a potential of job there, and they'd try and explain to me that studios don't really hire to work on movies. Movies come into studios, and it's like, I knew so little about the business that it didn't even, occur to me. So it took a long time to break into the industry. And then into camera, I was PA in the art department on Cocoon: The Return. And then I tried to get a job. I asked the camera department, Tak Fujimoto was the DP, and I asked him, how do I get into camera? And, they said, well, work at a rental house and learn the equipment. But a rental house wouldn't hire me because they didn't hire women. So I did get hired answering the phone. I was hired as a receptionist. And it was a struggle, because that was the industry. There were very few women. There was like no women in the camera department, so it was a long, it was a long road. It's a lot different now. For the last 10 or 12 years have been a big change. So, but that's how I started. I basically worked at a rental house, learned the equipment, and then went out as an assistant, and then moved to Atlanta because there was more work there. And then from Atlanta to New York. And then I split my time between New York and Atlanta. And I never went to LA. A lot of DPs I worked with told me, you should come to LA because we can, get you more work there. But I was getting to work with so many big DPs in Atlanta that I just, for whatever reason, didn't occur to me that would probably even be better in LA. So, and I wasn't a big fan of LA. I liked New York. So, Well, now things have changed a lot. You see a lot more women DPs and stuff, but it was also the industry has changed as far as like there was one. I mean, there has to be 40 to 50% more work now than there ever was. Back in film times, it's like you either worked on movies or you worked on sitcoms, which were basically all done in LA. You did documentaries, you did commercials, you kind of were stuck in a little circle. It was a very small industry, and you sort of specialized in whatever area. If you did a lot of movie of the weeks, that's what you did. I was always feature oriented. I wanted to work on motion pictures. So yeah, it's that's a whole nother conversation, how much it's changed. It's completely different than it was even, 10 to 12 years ago. That's when the change really started to happen. So, all these distribution companies, I mean, there's so many places to distribute material now, that didn't used to exist. So, which is a good thing. I mean, now a lot more people can do this as a living, and there are less restrictions. But yeah, I mean, the sexism back then was over the top. I mean, I laugh at it now, some of the things that people said, but you just dealt with it. You had no other choice. I've always found production design to be really interesting, and now it seems like we're doing a lot less big production design, because I worked on the Hunger Games, part of the Hunger Games too, and I was a little disappointed thinking I'm going to walk into this great production design thing, and it was like, oh, it's a lot of green screen, and mixed with production design. But I was just like, oh, I want the world, the costumes and stuff on the background, though, that was part of what really helped create that world. But so now the production design, I think I see it now as a little bit more in the hands of the visual effects guys, because they build the world a lot of times. I mean, it's the world that I find interesting, and they create the world in a computer. So it's like, I can't be a part of it. I just saw some stuff. I did some work on Fast and Furious 7 after Paul was killed. And that was eye-opening to, what they could do now in visual effects was crazy, because I mean, I can't tell you anything technically about it, because I just know what we did on set, and then of course it disappears, and then when I saw it in the movies, I was just like, this is unbelievable. I can't tell that that's not him, and I know it's not him because I was filming it, so it's interesting. That's kind of an interesting world now. It's left the practical and kind of gone into the computer. Where in the Heights was very much practical. It was like old time filmmaking, which was fun, and marrying it. But but otherwise, old time filmmaking. I love B&H. Well, I love B&H.